Hello, everyone. My presentation for today is Shadows of Faith, Superstition in Indian Society and the Works of R.K. Narayan. These are my academic information. So, has it ever happened to you that somebody was going out and you accidentally sneezed and then people started giving you dirty looks? Or you might have seen people jumping on the road trying to avoid a stray lemon that was suspiciously on the ground. You might have also seen people dilly-dallying on the road because a black cat has just crossed the path and they don't want to risk bad luck in this time. We see many such superstition in our daily lives, and we are so accustomed to it that at this point they don't even sound absurd to us. So, for my focus of today's presentation are these superstitions and how they are incorporated in the works of R.K. Narayan. Okay, so in his article, Dipesh Chakrabarti mentions two key features of superstition. So let us first understand those. So what is a superstition? It involves appealing to supernatural, extra-human forces for intervention in life events. And these forces cannot be semanticized into formal religious doctrine. You would not find any religion particularly saying that a black cat is a bad omen, but you will still find these superstitions in our society. Another very important aspect that Chakrabarti notices is why superstition persists. Why are they still relevant? We see that superstitions serve as ancient mechanism for managing risk and uncertainty. They help people cope with life's unpredictability. Our lives are quite unpredictable, and at times it is natural to feel vulnerable. And superstitions are a fundamental way to address these vulnerabilities. They are this desire for control. They provide perceived ways to influence life changes and outcomes. Superstitions persistent isn't simply about ignorance, and it is not about lack of education either, because you will see around you that educated people, doctors, engineers, IAS officers would also believe such superstition. So we cannot say that it is because lack of education, but it rather reflects how people understand and manage life's uncertainty in Indian society. So my research question for today is, how do R.K. Narayan's work depict superstition, and what insight do they provide about its role in Indian society and culture? R.K. Narayan's work depict superstition as a reflection of societal beliefs and cultural tradition, using it to explore how these practices shape individual lives, influence community dynamics, and reveal the interplay between faith and rationality in Indian society. This is my hypothesis for today. Now, about R.K. Narayan, already much is said about him, so I will try to keep this one short. That Rasipuram Krishna Swami Narayan, or R.K. Narayan as we know him, is a prominent Indian author known for his contributions to Indian writing in English. He is famous for creating this fictional town called Malgudi, where most of his stories take place. And many of his notable works include Swami and Friends, The Bachelor of Arts, Malgudi Days, and The Guide. And he has won numerous awards as well. In this presentation, I'm going to look at his short story, The Astrologer's Day, his novel, The Bachelor of Arts, and another novel, The Guide. But before that, let us understand Narayan's personal influences. What drives him to add superstitions in his book? So you can see these quotes are taken from his memoir, My Days. In here, he talks about growing up in a village, which is a superstitious village in itself, but growing up with a superstitious grandmother. There is this quote. So his uncle brought a camera for the first time, and he was very enchanted by it, and he liked to take his photographs. So, but his grandmother believed that photograph was likely to shorten the subject's life, so you should not take many pictures. And if this was true, then what does that say about today's generation that takes selfie every 5 minutes? And his grandmother also enforced this, that on a certain day in September, he selected by my grandmother for its auspiciousness, I bought an exercise book and wrote the first line of the novel. Like many grandparents believe that there is a perfect muhurat to do something, and if you follow that, then success will follow. So we can see these are the personal influences in life of Narayan. Now let us move on to his story, The Astrologer's Day. Now it is quite a simple story, ironic. It is a story about an astrologer, a fake astrologer to be precise, as the story suggests, that he was as much a stranger to the stars as were his innocent customers. Yet he said things which pleased and astonished everyone. That was more a matter of study, practice, and shrewd guesswork. So the trick that astrologer used was that he would let the subject speak for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and then he would make predictions. And most of them were general predictions, like you work hard, but you don't get enough result. Everybody believes that they work hard and that they don't get what they deserve. So this was convincing to his simple customers. Then one evening, he meets a stranger, which is Guru Nayak, and Guru Nayak challenges him to tell me, like, really tell me the real things. He asks him question about who attacked me. And astrologer tells him that the man who attacked you is already dead and now that you should return to your village. In actuality, astrologer is the man who attacked him. So we see he convinces the stranger that the attacker is dead and saves himself as well. So here also we see astrology, the superstition of how stars and planets align to make human fortune. Now, in the Bachelor of Arts, this is the Narayan's second story, and it revolves around Chandran, who is a young college graduate, and he is transitioning from college education to from academic life to adulthood. He is wondering what to do with his career, and at this moment, he meets Malati, and he falls in love with her. But his proposal gets rejected because their horoscopes don't match. Apparently, Chandran has Mars, which you might have heard that Kundali Ma Mangal. So Malati's father believes that it kills the wife soon after the marriage. So she believes that he believes that the marriage should not take place, and the proposal is rejected. So disheartened, Chandran runs away from his home. Thank God he didn't overreact, right? So he runs away from his home. He lives like a sannyasi. And the people in that distant village start believing that he is a sage. And here we see two types of superstition. We see people believing in the sage, and we also see people believing in horoscopes and astrology. Moving on, we have the novel The Guide. It is also set in the fictional town of Malgudi, and it is about this tourist guide, Raju, and his transition from self-serving individual to an unintended spiritual leader. Now, how does that happen? So Raju meets a dancer, Rosie, and they start an affair. And later, out of jealousy, Raju signs his check for Rosie's check. He's signed by Raju, and he is arrested for forgery. After coming out of jail, he travels to a village, and here in this village, because he was in jail for so long, so he had beard and he had this ragged look about him, so people started believing that he is a spiritual leader, he's a saint. And there is a very prominent follower of him, the first follower that he has, called Velam, and he tells Velam his entire life story. He tells him that I am actually a prisoner and I came out of jail and everything. And yet Velam refuses to believe that he is not a saint, even after knowing everything. So this shows how much people are delusioned about these things. And we also see that after believing that he is saint, there was a drought in the village. So they tell him that you are such a saint, so you have to keep a fast for us. And the novel ends as he is fasting for 12 to 15 days and in the ultimate death of Raju. So we see the transition from tourist guide to an unintended spiritual leader. And one quote that I think still holds true is, the essence of one's sainthood seems to lie in one's ability to utter mystifying sentences. So if you are able to say confusing sentences with great conviction, there is a possibility that people will believe that you are some saint. Now the main question remains. R.K. Narayan is a pre-independence Indian writer. These superstitions that he writes about, do they still hold true for our contemporary society? The sad answer is yes. We see two types of superstition. Number one is belief in astrology. And recently, there is a rapid growth in online astrology. You might have seen ads of these also, online astrology apps as well. And we see that there is a popularity of astrology among Gen Z. And this is very surprising. Why is younger generation so interested in astrology? And the answer is that it is a tool for their self-discovery, their emotional reflection, and coping with uncertainty in an unpredictable world. There is a article by Martin Bohr that says why astrology resonates with people. Why do people believe in it? And he gives 3 ideas for this. Number one is the superficial knowledge. Astrology uses all these mathematic techniques. If you go to an astrologer, they will count something, they will tell you about the charts, there are diagrams, so it looks scientific enough. So people are fooled that maybe it is true. Another thing is the spiritual uncertainty idea, which means that people who are religious but they are not able to follow religion are also likely to follow astrology, because there is a guilt that we are not religious enough. And the last idea is authoritarian personality. So, astrology in itself is quite a narcissistic idea. If you think that stars shine for us, that the planets that are hundreds and hundreds miles away from us move their position just so that they could create obstacle for us. So, it's such a narcissistic idea. And so it is also, in this article they examine that is it true that the authoritarian personalities, the people who are quite narcissistic themselves, do they believe in astrology more, although they didn't find much conclusive proof of this. Now, the age old Indian obsession with the babas. There is a persistent issue of fraudulent spiritual leaders, and this is no surprise to anyone, I believe, because we have seen these Babaji exploiting people's faith for personal gains from time and time again. We have seen them, and often these so-called spiritual leaders are engaged in criminal activities. If you see the spiritual leaders who were famous 5 years ago are right now rotting in jail, and you would think that after looking at that, people would understand not to follow these, but a very recent incident that happened that I would like to mention. There was a satsang in Hathras of Bole Baba, and then after he was leaving, people rushed to touch his feet, to get the sand where his feet was, to get the sand where his car's tire was, and this created a stampede, which resulted in the death of 121 people. And what did the godman have to say about this? He said, "Honi ko kaun dal sakta hai?" So after this incident, Akhil Bharatiya Akhara Parishad, which is like a community of the Hindu saint, they gave a list of 20 such self-proclaimed godmen who are like fraudulent babas. So we see that this is also quite persistent in our contemporary society. And let us not forget the Instagram favorite Pookie Baba that everyone is obsessed with. So to conclude, in my presentation, we explored superstition in Astrologers' Day, how it affects normal people and how they are gullible enough to be fooled by this astrologer. We saw the Bachelor of Arts, how astrology or overbelief on astrology nearly ruined Chandran's life, and how the guide from the Akinarayan, that even if after telling people that he's not a real saint, people still try to believe it, people still refuse to think that he's a normal person. So we see how superstitions are there in all of these work. We also see both type of superstition, astrology and the belief in holy men, and how they are still persistent in our society. So I would like to conclude my presentation by saying that R.K. Narayan's work not only portrays superstition as a cultural constant, but also offers a critique of its power over personal agency, illustrating how societal beliefs shape lives, restrict choices, and maintain social order. Ultimately, Narayan's exploration of superstition invites us to reflect on its ongoing presence in our lives and its broader implication on both individual and collective identity in contemporary India. These are my references. And now for your questions.
My question is for you. Do you believe that there is any cause and effect relationship in superstition? India is known for it, but could you provide example from other countries?
Okay, so first I would like to start by, as you said, India is we have these rules as well that you should not cut your nails in the night. And then people try to say that that superstition originated because it was dark at night. So if you try to cut your nails, that you might hurt yourself. So that is how people believe. And as you said, yes, even in other countries, superstitions are always there. One country that right now comes to mind is Korea, Japan. They also believe in these superstitions. But I cannot right now think of any superstition that has like these kind of convincing valid reasons, because the people nowadays are quite honest about them, and they tell that superstitions are just that, superstitions. They don't try to justify it with such words.
So, Bhumi, my question is, To what extent do Narayan's character rely on superstition as a coping mechanism for uncertainty? And how does this reflect the larger socio-cultural milieu of post-colonial India?
Okay, so we see that, as I already said, that superstition, the main cause people believe in the superstition is uncertainty. They try to use superstition to deal with life's uncertainty. And even in with the example of Narayan's character, we have the guy, the Raju, he promotes these superstitions by participating in the ritual, because at this point he had no other aim in life. And when people started believing that he is this great saint, it made him feel belonged. So he uses the superstition as a coping mechanism for his own guilt. For he tries to do this as a penance for his own crime as well. And as for, we can say, post-colonial India, well, after we see that after the Britisher rules, India did find themselves starting from the scratch. And of course, with new beginnings there comes many uncertainties, and I think that could also be one reason why Indians still believe in superstition, and it is such an important part of our culture. So yeah, that was it. Thank you for your time.